Charles Dunn is in the house. We call him Silk. What do we call him? Silk. What's
Love
that?
it.
He's so smooth, man. He's so smooth.
Coach. He will not be denied. That's what I got to say, right?
That's right.
So tell us about it, Silk.
Well, I Would Not Be Denied is a book about the process of enduring through struggles and dark places in your life. People felt like when I came out, I was going to write a book about selling drugs and everything that I had been through. But to me, how many times can you tell the same story? What needs to be out there is the process of identifying how to get through the dark spaces.
Oh, so
tell us, how do you do that?
Well, for me, it's about, I love what Tanya said earlier. Sometimes you got to stop doing what you were taught to do long enough to discover what you were born to do. And
Preach.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
when you're able to sit down and you don't consume yourself with the struggle itself, you are able to make a connection to your higher self. Because what I tell people, the world is constantly following the followers. So most people have never been introduced to themselves. In order to be introduced to yourselves, you have to go through something traumatic. When you put pressure on grapefruit, you get grapefruit juice. You put pressure on an orange, you get orange juice. When you put pressure on someone's life, its intestinal essence comes forth. So a lot of people think you're something until you go through something. Then you realize you might be someone else.
So true.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's a time of transformation for so many people. I don't know about you guys out there, but 2018 was a hard year. And a lot of my friends went through some pretty dark, transforming times in 2018. And it's true about the process, because you feel like no one's there for you.
That's it.
And you do feel like you got to do it. And you do have to do it on your own, because you do have to connect. And Aaron, you know all about this, connecting with your higher self to finally get the answers.
It's just a question, though. It's like, yes, we all have the dark night of soul or the hero's journey of having to go through that. But I'm always wondering, like, do we really have to go through that, right? Can we just train our kids and teach them meditation and avoid
I think the answer is no. You don't have to go through that, right? I mean, I think there's always going to be contrast in life. There's always going to be adversity in life. You're never going to escape that. That's what life essentially is. That being said, I don't think that we all have to experience the crucifixion over and over and over again.
True. Yeah.
tired of being
True. I definitely agree with that. It's just that it's something about that opposing force. It's something that makes you dig deeper. I think it was Julius Caesar that said, no person would do anything great without being motivated to do so first. So what I tell people, like in the seminar, I use this example. You may get into it with a grizzly bear, and the grizzly bear might be able to devour you quickly unless you see the grizzly bear about to attack your child if you're a mother or father. Now the grizzly bear is in for the fight of its life.
Don't you mess with us. You hear that? Yeah, exactly. We will take you down.
It's such a good point, and it also, I think a huge part of it too is that it makes for such a phenomenal story, not just literally but figuratively too. I mean, I think about like the moments in my life or the things that I've observed in my life that have impressed me or inspired me the most. And it's always been moments when somebody's been going through something that's been extraordinarily challenging, and yet they come out on top, like Michael Jordan, like NBA playoffs, fever, sick, and yet somehow he's still able to score 60 points, or still over it, right?
Yes.
So there's something phenomenally appealing and seductive about that, and yet we don't always want to be in the struggle.
You know, one of the things, and I really thank the universe for this, I was armed growing up. I started studying the Bible when I was 4. I used to study Khalil Gibran, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And Khalil Gibran said, pain is only the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding of life. So when you're going through the pain, you have to embrace it and don't get so caught up in what you're going through that you're not getting the takeaways. Because we just want to live this, the whole world wants to live this pleasure-centered life. Well, the problem with that is there's no evolution without an opposing force. So for me, I was sentenced to 30 years at 23 years old as a first-time drug offender. And I only got into the game, which man, it was a foolish act, but my brother was a superstar, a football player. And he was slinging drugs to go through junior college because they were paying for his books and not his room and board. You know how that is when you go to the JUCO. Well, when he went to Iowa, the momentum, I always ask people, have you ever seen a ball stop rolling halfway down a hill? What you do builds momentum for the next thing you do. So the momentum of him doing that, when he went to Iowa Hawkeyes and he became the superstar, he didn't even need it anymore. But the habit of that, he kept doing it all the way until he got drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So 3 days before his first game in the NFL, he got busted selling drugs. And I allowed, I have to assume accountability for this. I allowed that to just destroy me. That's why I tell people, be careful who you're following and what you're following in that person. So in a fit of rage, I went to the street to seek vengeance because I felt like the streets deprived my mother and my brother of a financial life that we would have had. So that's what inspired me to go into that. And ultimately, I'll end up being the youngest person to get charged with kingpin status in Ohio's history. So.
Wow.
When people spiral into these, I mean, I've had my moments in life where life just seems to spiral down. Do you think how do you feel about bad decision making or life itself? Like, that causes people to get to their lowest point?
That's a great question. I feel like it's a little bit of both, Tanya. Tanya, I feel like that you have to realize that we all have a path, a life path, and the decision making on your life path. So you have to really take everything and just be careful. I know this is gonna sound crazy. Try not to be so much to the point where you're emotionally drowning in what you're going through.
Right.
Because that's what happens.
Then you
can't park there. You know what I mean? When you go through, you're parking. Like Winston Churchill said, when you find yourself going through something, just keep on going. Don't park.
I remember that being like so the effect of I feel this way, therefore I should, or whatever emotion. And when I realized I'm not my emotion, I'm the creator of my emotion. I went, whoa, that's a whole
or the
other
observer
thing.
of
That's
emotion.
totally different game.
That's the key. Do you know what started this life coach journey? I went in jail and saw so many men that were committing suicide and they were so depressed, couldn't read and couldn't write. And I'm like, who told you you had to feel like this, going through this? Emotions are a learned behavior. Don't buy the program of prison. It's like somebody told you, okay, stop feeling joy right now. And 10 years from now, we're going to give you permission to feel joyful. No, it doesn't work like that. You don't get that kind of power over me.
I love that. It's interesting because I think about Ramana Maharishi a lot, and one of the things he said is, there's physical pain, and that's about 1% of life, quite honestly. And he said 99% of the pain that you experience in life is psychological and emotional and really spiritual, right? And he said all psychological, emotional, and spiritual suffering and pain is really just unwanted thought. It's just unwanted thought.
That's it.
So I thank you so much for that reminder.
Thank
really.
you.
I will
Thank
not
you.
be denied your greatness, your
Thank you.
brilliance, your joy, all the above.
Thank
And
you.
only you can deny it, right?
That's it,
That's
only you.
right.
Absolutely.
So where can they find you and your book and everything else?
Well, of course, you can follow me on Charles Hook Dunn, but the book is on Amazon.com
A thing called Amazon.
yes.
Buy the
and-
book. I know I
Thank you so
am.
much.
Can't
Oh,
wait.
my
Hey,
Pleasure.
Thank
Really.
you.
Stay
Thank
tuned.
you.
We'll be right back.